Orion and the Dark is one of my most anticipated films of this year and is now streaming on Netflix. But after watching this movie, and even while I was watching this movie, I just could not decide how I feel about it. So this movie follows Orion, an elementary school kid, and he is afraid of everything. He has this irrational fear of almost everything. Bees, dogs, the ocean, talking to Sally, who he likes so much. He's even afraid that one day when he gets back from school, his parents are going to move away without him. This child is a lot. He's just a big ball of walking anxiety. And one thing he fears the most is being in the dark. He's so scared of the dark. He's so scared at night. Until one night, Dark gets fed up with his crying and whining at night and decides to confront Orion. Why are you scared of me? So when Dark shows up in this embodiment, he whisks Orion away on a roller coaster of adventure around the world to prove that there's really nothing to be scared of at night. Now Orion must learn to accept the unknown and stop letting fear control his life and finally embrace the joys of living. This Netflix animated movie was a directorial debut for Sean Shamat, and it's based on a children's book of the same name by Emma Yalett. So this story is very lovely. It's probably going to remind you of Disney's Inside Out, because not only do we meet the entity Dark in an embodiment, but we also got to meet different entities like Insomnia, Quiet, Dream, Unexplained Noises. So that's going to probably remind you of Disney's Inside Out. I think it's a good family-friendly movie and it's very inclusive to every generation because Orion is very relatable. Almost everyone who have been at that age before or even right now can relate to what Orion is going through. We all feel anxious about doing things or afraid of what we don't know is going to happen. There's always this little doubt or anxiety before we make any decision. I believe that children at that age probably might be able to relate to what Orion is going through, although Orion is like overboard, afraid of everything. But in as much as it's okay for everybody, I feel like the structure might be a little bit confusing for the younger audience. This movie is rated PG 7+, and it's going to be a fun time family movie. Of course, it has a very beautiful animation. But I feel like parents have to do a tad bit of explaining during this movie. It's not that the story is very complicated, but towards the end of the first act and the beginning of the second act, we find out that Orion is actually an adult telling his daughter the story to help her overcome her fears of the dark. I think it's good, but I feel like since this is okay for younger audience, I feel like if they had established this fact earlier on in the movie, there'll be little confusion for the younger audience, and I feel it's kind of caused a little bit of disconnect for me while I was watching this film. And throughout the story, there are these pauses from Orion's adventure with Dark, but it's not so bad, as not only does the movie teaches lessons of overcoming your fears and anxiety, it also shows the beauty of an active imagination, storytelling, and storytelling as a means of bringing people together or closer regardless of their generation or their differences. We have a really great cast voicing the characters in this movie and bringing them to life, making this movie even more immersive. My favorite elements of this movie is just the ninth entity. I love these characters a lot. They added so much amusement to the story. As a matter of fact, they stole the show for me. Also, the animation was pretty stellar. When the movie opened, the picture was not so bright. It just reflected Orion's anxiety and fear. It's a bit gloomy, like his mood. The pacing of this film was great, and by the time it was over, I could not even believe that I was done seeing the movie. I was like, oh, really? That was fast. The entire movie is 90 minutes long. I'll rate this movie 3 stars. I like Orion and the Dark. I like the messages that we're trying to pass about the importance of balance, light and dark, and how we should not just be afraid of things, to just give things a try and not always live in fear like Orion did. Really beautiful messages passed on here. In as much as I loved it, I felt a little disconnect while watching the movie. I think that's because of the plot structure. I'm not so sure why. Maybe if I give it another try, maybe I'll like it better. I kept wondering while I was watching it, if I was watching this movie with a kid right now and they'll have questions, sometimes having to answer questions or explain in the movie is not always fun. But maybe it's just me, and kids will love it and they'll comprehend what's going on in the movie. I don't think it's very memorable. If you've seen Orion and the Dark, tell me what you think about it in the comments, and do well to subscribe to We Are Binge Watching. My name is Enifome, and I will see you next time.